Hi everyone, welcome to my first video on the interview tips. As you may already know, I was conducting a series of videos on career tips, but based on the requests received from you all, I'm going to conduct a series of videos on the interview tips as well. So this is the first video. Let's go ahead and see. Okay, are you a person who finds it difficult to find a job opportunity? So, as per my view, you must be stuck in one of the two stages mentioned here. You might be spending your time, you might be spending many hours in one of these two stages to get through this interview. What are those? The first one, you might not receiving the interview call. That is the basic thing that we need to accomplish to get through an opportunity. And what's the next? Is it is receiving sufficient opportunities but cannot get through. So if you're a person who stuck in this first stage, so I'm going to talk about what are your next step under this video. And if you're a person who is under the second stage, what I'm going to do is I will explain what you need to do in my next video. But don't forget, if you are in the second stage, that means the first step you have already won. Let's see what are the steps that you need to follow if you're not receiving the interview call. Okay, if you're a person who stuck at this stage who doesn't get that interview call, you need to have a serious look on your profile, your CV, your resume. If you are not getting that call, there might be some issue in your CV. So what you need to do is go through your profile and you need to understand in few aspects which I'm going to explain you during this video. What's the first one? How professional your CV is. So you are applying for a profession which requires some level of professionalism. So that professionalism should be reflected in your CV also. So first thing you need to do is to see whether it has been professionally articulated, right? And the second one, what have you not mentioned but it's important to keep? The CV is the only document the employer can get an understanding on you as the first impression. So you need to mention everything where the employer is get a feeling that I must call this person and see. So do you, if you think that there might be some things that I need to include, revisit and include those as well. And the next one, how neatly you have arranged your CV. If it's like a mess in your CV, if it's a mess that doesn't looks nice, that employer doesn't want to go through, the chances of getting that call is minimum. So you all need to make sure your CV is neatly prepared. Okay. And the next one, how updated it is. If you are sharing your CV with details which is only up to last year, you haven't included any information, any duties, any responsibilities, any experience that you have gone through this year, it is not updated. So the employer will get an understanding that this person is irresponsible person or less responsible person. So don't make them to judge you in that way because of your profile. And the next one, whether you have mentioned your achievement. It can be a tiny achievement, it can be a very small achievement, but please make sure to add all your achievement in terms of professionally, or it might be related to some sports, it might be related to some extracurricular activities. Please make sure to include those because those are the things that employer can give you marks simply. And the next one, whether there's any gap in the qualifications experience against the job requirements. You might be thinking that this job will suit for me. This is the area that I'm looking for. But carefully go through the requirements of that job advertisement and see whether there is any gap with your requirements, with the company requirements, and where you are. sometimes there might be instances you are having all the requirements but you haven't not mentioned all these things in your CV. So go through carefully that CV and see whether there are any gap between the requirements and your current status, whether the experiences are effectively expressed. So you might be having many experiences, but you need to convince the employer that I have done this thing, that thing in detail. Then only he or she should be able to understand that, okay, this is the right person that we are looking for, because the competition is really, really high nowadays. And the next one, whether you have impressed the recruiter once you had a look from recruiter's point of view. So you have a have a look on your CV from the recruiter's point of view, whether it is impressive. If you feel that this is not impressive, there can be multiple other impressive CVs receiving for your employer. So the more the convincing power is included, you will lose that opportunity of getting that call. Think of it. And the next one, whether you need us to speak to an experienced person to get views. You might be having your colleagues, having your friends, having your professionals who might help you to create a good CV. So once you created it based on my guidelines, show it to one of the experts and see whether this has been up to the standards. If there are any deviations, get their views and try to adjust them according to the requirements. So if you follow all these steps, definitely I can guarantee you will get your next call. Okay, as I mentioned, I covered only the first part of this video. And if you are a person who gets this call and you are not getting through the interview, I'm going to give you another tips on how you should act during your interview. It will be covered in my next video. Please subscribe to my channel and stay in touch. Thank you very much. Goodbye.